Have you ever stood in front of a mirror holding a small mate up and felt a strange weight in your chest? And have you ever noticed that the real conflict is not about your face, but about your fear of being judged, your fear of creating karma, and your fear of losing your inner peace? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about this question all the way through until it stops being a knot in your heart. Can a Buddhist wear makeup? The answer is not complicated, but it demands something that modern life rarely trains: honest self-observation. Because what matters most in Buddhism is not the object in your hand. What matters is the mind that is holding it. Many people struggle here because they are pulled into directions at the same time. One part of them wants to look presentable and feel confident in daily life. Another part of them worries that wanting to look good is vanity, attachment, or even a cause of harm for themselves and others. So they feel torn. They do a little makeup, then feel guilty. They stop, then feel insecure. They want to be dignified, then fear being called superficial. They want to be simple, then fear being seen as careless. And this back and forth is exhausting. So let us make the real question clear. The real question is not whether makeup is allowed. The real question is whether your heart is being bound by appearance, whether your intention is wholesome, whether your actions create peace or create craving, whether your choices produce clarity or produce more confusion. In short, whether you are walking the middle way or falling into extremes. If you have spent time around Buddhist practice, you have probably seen two extreme styles appear. One extreme is denial of beauty. A person decides that anything related to appearance is wrong. They treat grooming as a sin. They become tense around mirrors. They judge themselves for wanting to be liked. They judge others for enjoying beauty. On the surface, it looks spiritual, but inside, it is often fear disguised as discipline. And fear is not liberation. The other extreme is indulgence. A person uses appearance as a tool to control attention. They chase admiration. They depend on compliments to feel real. They measure their value by how others react. They use beauty as bait. Even if they talk about spirituality, their mind is still being dragged by craving. That too is not liberation. The middle way is different. The middle way says you may present yourself neatly and appropriately. You may use appearance with skillful intention. But you do not let appearance own your identity. You do not let it become your addiction. You do not let it become your weapon. You do not let it become the cage you live in. This is the heart of the matter. Buddhism is not a religion of harsh self-punishment. It is a path of waking up. And waking up always comes back to one thing: seeing the mind clearly. Now let us slow down and make this practical. Because you are not asking this question in a vacuum. You are asking it while living in a world that profits from insecurity. A world that constantly whispers, you are not enough unless you buy something. A world that uses images to pull your attention like a hook in the mouth. A world where comparison is endless and content never stops. In that world, of course, you feel tension about makeup, because makeup is not only about pigment. It is connected to status, sexuality, fear, belonging, self-worth, and power. So if we do not talk about the mind behind the makeup, we will never solve the problem. We will only trade one anxiety for another. Let me tell you a story that mirrors what many people experience. There was a woman who started practicing Buddhism seriously in her late 20s. She had always enjoyed dressing nicely, not in a dramatic way, just in a clean, professional way. A little foundation to even the skin tone. A little color so she looked awake. A little care so she felt confident at work. Then she began to study precepts, teachings on desire, teachings on attachment, teachings on karma. And suddenly her morning routine became a battlefield. She would pick up her makeup bag and her mind would start accusing her. If you put this on, you are attached. If you put this on, you will tempt others. If you put this on, you are not pure. If you put this on, you are not a real practitioner. So she stopped. For a few days she felt proud, like she had conquered something. Then something else happened. She began to avoid people. She began to feel exposed. She began to overthink every interaction. She began to interpret neutral looks as judgment. Her confidence dropped. She spoke less in meetings. She started shrinking. Then the guilt returned, but in a new form. Now she felt guilty for caring, and guilty for not caring, guilty for wanting to look good, and guilty for feeling insecure. It was like she could not win. One day she went to a temple event and saw an older lay practitioner who looked simple but very dignified. Clean clothes, calm posture, gentle face, not flashy at all, but there was a kind of quiet radiance. The woman could not stop looking because it felt so peaceful. After the event, she asked the older practitioner directly, "Do you think it is wrong to wear makeup?" The older practitioner smiled and asked her a question instead. "When you wear it, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to be neat, or are you trying to be worshipped? Are you trying to be respectful, or are you trying to be superior? Are you trying to feel at ease, or are you trying to control how people feel about you?" That question landed like a bell in a quiet room, because the woman suddenly realized she had never separated presentation from attachment. In her mind, it was either total indulgence or total denial. She did not know there was a middle. She did not know she could be neat without craving. She did not know she could look good without becoming addicted to attention. So the older practitioner gave her a practice, not about makeup, about intention. Before you touch your face in the morning, pause. Take one breath. Ask, what is my intention today? If the intention is to be respectful and presentable, then proceed simply. If the intention is to be praised, envied, or desired, then pause and clean the intention first. If the intention is fear of being rejected, then comfort the fear first. If the intention is anger and a desire to compete, then soften the anger first. Then she said something even more important. Remember that karma begins in the mind. Objects are not the main issue. The mind is. That was the turning point. The woman went home and tried it. The next morning, she did not rush. She breathed. She asked herself honestly what was driving her. She realized that half the time she was not trying to be beautiful. She was trying to be safe. She was trying to avoid criticism. She was trying to avoid the feeling of being invisible. When she saw that clearly, something softened, and she decided to use a very simple approach. She would keep her grooming neat and modest, enough to look awake and respectful, but she would not chase perfection. She would not chase admiration. She would not treat the mirror like a judge. She would treat it like a tool. Something amazing happened over the next weeks. Her inner tension reduced. She stopped thinking about makeup as a moral trial. She stopped judging other women for wearing more or less. She started noticing how often her mind tried to grasp attention, and she started practicing letting go. In other words, the question about makeup became a doorway into real practice. This is what wisdom looks like. A real practitioner uses daily life as the path, not only meditation cushions and scriptures, but also the ordinary moments that trigger craving and fear. Now let us bring this into a deeper Buddhist framework without turning it into stiff theory. In Buddhism, morality is not mainly about forbidding objects. It is about reducing suffering for yourself and others. It is about training the mind away from greed, anger, and delusion. It is about cultivating compassion, wisdom, and inner freedom. So any daily action can be evaluated through a simple lens. Does this increase grasping or decrease grasping? Does this increase harm or decrease harm? Does this increase clarity or increase confusion? Does this strengthen compassion or strengthen vanity? Makeup can land on either side depending on the mind. If you wear it with obsession, it can feed craving. You become dependent. You become anxious. You begin comparing. You begin buying endlessly. You begin chasing an image that always moves farther away. That is suffering. If you wear it with manipulation, it can become a cause of harm. You use beauty as a hook. You awaken craving in others intentionally. You play games with attention. You treat people like sources of validation. That too is suffering. But if you wear it with moderation and skillful intention, it can be neutral or even beneficial. You look neat at work. You show respect in social situations. You support your confidence so you can serve others more effectively. You reduce self-consciousness so you can listen better. You avoid making your appearance a distraction. You keep it simple so your mind stays free. That can be skillful. Now some people will say, but does not Buddhism teach renunciation? Yes, but renunciation is not the same as self-hatred. Renunciation is the ability to let go. And the deepest letting go happens inside. You can let go of attachment while still using ordinary tools. You can also wear plain clothes and still be deeply attached to being seen as spiritual. So the external form is not the final measure. There is a subtle trap that many sincere practitioners fall into. They stop doing something not because it creates suffering, but because they want to prove they are pure. This becomes spiritual pride. And spiritual pride is still a chain. It is possible to be attached to not wearing makeup, just as it is possible to be attached to wearing it. Attachment is not about the object. Attachment is about the clinging mind. This is why the middle way is so important, because it protects you from both extremes, the extreme of indulgence and the extreme of self-punishment. Both are forms of being controlled. One is controlled by craving. One is controlled by fear. Freedom is different. Freedom is choice with awareness. So how do you know whether your choice is free or controlled? Here are a few signs that are easy to test in real life. When you cannot leave the house without makeup and you feel panic or shame without it, that is not simple grooming. That is dependency. When you check your face repeatedly in reflections and feel restless, that is not self-care. That is grasping. When a compliment lifts you high and a lack of compliment drops you low, that is not confidence. That is bondage. When you wear makeup mainly to compete with others, to be superior, to steal attention, that is not dignity. That is craving mixed with insecurity. But when you can wear it or not wear it without inner drama, when you can keep it minimal and not chase perfection, when you can let your face be a face rather than a project, when you can focus on kindness instead of admiration, then you are closer to the middle way. Now we also have to address the specific worry many people mention. Will I create karma by making others have impure thoughts? This is a sincere concern and it deserves a sincere answer. In Buddhist ethics, you are responsible for your intention and your actions. You are not responsible for controlling every thought in another person's mind. If someone sees you and their mind becomes disturbed, that is their mind revealing its habits. However, there is also compassion. If you deliberately dress in a way meant to provoke lust, to manipulate and to pull people into craving for your advantage, then yes, your intention is not clean and that can create harmful karma. So again, it comes back to intention. Think about it like this. A knife can cut vegetables and feed a family, or it can harm a person. The knife itself is not evil. The mind using it matters. Makeup is similar. It can be a simple tool, or it can be bait. The difference is the mind behind it. So a wise approach is to ask, am I presenting myself in a way that is respectful to the situation? Am I trying to be neat and appropriate? Or am I trying to ignite desire and control others? This is not about blaming yourself. It is about honesty. Now, I want to speak about something even deeper. Because for many people, makeup is not really about beauty. It is about identity. Some people use makeup to hide. Some use it to perform. Some use it to armor themselves against rejection. Some use it to feel like they exist. So when they try to stop, they feel like they disappear. And that is painful. If that is you, I want you to hear a compassionate truth. You do not need to punish yourself into spirituality. You need to heal into spirituality. Healing means you slowly build a sense of worth that does not depend on external approval. It means you learn to be comfortable being seen as ordinary. It means you learn to be comfortable not controlling impressions. It means you learn to befriend your own face at different moments of life. Tired face, aging face, bare face, happy face, sad face. In Buddhism, the body is impermanent. The face changes. Trying to freeze, it is fighting reality. And fighting reality is suffering. But accepting impermanence does not mean neglect. It means you care without clinging. You wash your face. You keep yourself healthy. You keep yourself neat. But you remember it is a temporary form, not the core of who you are. The core is the mind. The core is your compassion. The core is your integrity. The core is your wisdom. This brings us to the most practical spiritual training connected to this topic. Watch the moment you look into a mirror. For many people, the mirror is not a mirror. It is a courtroom. It is a marketplace. It is a battlefield. It is a place where the mind attacks the body. A practitioner can turn the mirror into a teacher. When you look into the mirror, notice the first thought that appears. Is it kindness or criticism? Is it acceptance or disgust? Is it gratitude or comparison? Then practice one simple thing. Replace the first unkind thought with a kind thought, not fake flattery, just kindness. Say, this body has carried me through so much. Say, this face reflects my life experience. Say, may I use this body to do good today. Say, may I speak kindly today. Say, may I not harm myself with my own mind. This is practice. This is compassion. Many people think compassion is only for others, but the way you treat yourself becomes the way you treat others. If you attack yourself in the mirror, you will likely attack others in subtle ways too. If you learn gentleness with yourself, you learn gentleness with the world. So your makeup question becomes a doorway into a much bigger practice. Transforming the inner voice, transforming self-cruelty into self-awareness, transforming insecurity into steadiness. Now let us widen the lens to include dignity, because one reason people wear makeup is dignity. They want to look put together. They want to represent themselves well. They do not want to appear careless. This can be wholesome. Dignity is not vanity. Dignity can be a form of respect. Respect for oneself and respect for the people you meet. In many Asian traditions, there is an idea of being proper, not for pride, for harmony. When you show up clean and neat, you reduce discomfort for others. You do not distract them. You show that you value the meeting. That can be compassionate. So if you wear simple makeup to look awake at work, to show respect at a formal occasion, to keep a professional presence, that can be fine. The key is whether it increases your ego or supports your function. There is also the teaching of skillful means. Skillful means using what works to reduce suffering and cultivate goodness. If looking a little more polished helps you communicate effectively in your job, which allows you to support your family and contribute to society and gives you stability for practice, then that can be skillful. But if you use polish to dominate and manipulate, then it is unskillful. Once again, mind is the root. Now let me address another hidden layer. Many people fear that if they wear makeup, other practitioners will judge them. This fear can be real in communities where people compare who is more pure. But remember, the purpose of practice is not to win purity contests. The purpose is to reduce greed, anger, and delusion. So do not let other people's opinions become your new attachment. If you make choices to please a group, you are still being controlled, just by a different kind of craving, the craving to be approved as spiritual. True practice is quiet. It is the courage to be honest. It is the courage to choose what is skillful rather than what is performative. If you want a simple guiding phrase to carry with you, it is this: neat but not needy, dignified but not dependent, beautiful but not bound. Now let us return to karma, because the original text we are expanding points to something crucial. The anxiety around makeup is often the anxiety around creating negative consequences. You want to be a good person. You want to practice properly. You do not want to harm yourself or others. That sincerity is already merit. The fact that you care about intention is already the seed of wisdom. So the question becomes, how do you apply karma in daily life without becoming anxious? The answer is awareness plus balance. Awareness means you keep checking the mind gently, not obsessively. Gently, you notice craving, you notice fear, you notice pride, then you soften them. Balance means you do not fall into black and white thinking. You do not label everything as pure or impure in a rigid way. You recognize that the path is gradual. You are training habits, not flipping a switch. So if you wear makeup and notice you are becoming attached, you do not panic. You do not shame yourself. You simply adjust. You spend less time. Check the intention again. Return to the breath. Return to kindness. If you stop wearing makeup and notice you are becoming proud or judgmental, you also adjust. You remind yourself that practice is about humility. You remind yourself that all beings seek happiness. You soften your gaze toward others. This is how practice stays alive, not as rules that create fear, but as tools that create clarity. Now I want to tell you another story, because stories make these teachings real. A young man once told me he was confused because he felt distracted when he saw women wearing makeup at temple events. He assumed the solution was to tell women to stop, but that is not wisdom. I asked him to observe his own mind. Was the distraction coming from women, or was it coming from his own untrained attention? He realized it was his attention. He was not stable. He was not grounded. He was using external control to avoid internal training. So I suggested a practice. When distraction arises, do not blame the object. Return to the breath. Lower the eyes gently. Notice the sensation without feeding the story. Remember impermanence. Remember that craving is a wave. If you do not surf it, it will pass. Then cultivate loving kindness, not desire, loving kindness. He practiced this and later told me something important. When I stopped blaming others, I gained strength. I felt more respectful. I felt more calm. I realized practice is inside me, not outside me. This is an important point. We cannot build a pure mind by controlling the whole world. We build a pure mind by training our responses. At the same time, compassion matters. If someone knows they have a powerful effect on others and they intentionally use it to stir craving, that can be unkind. So again, balance, not blaming, not indulging, not controlling, not provoking. The middle way. Now I want to bring in a deeper spiritual theme that the original article hints at. The real struggle is the mind being pulled between wanting to be respected and fearing being judged, pulled between wanting to look good and fearing attachment, pulled between wanting freedom and fearing mistakes. This pulling is suffering. In Buddhist terms, suffering is not only pain. Suffering is also the restless push and pull of the mind. So the real goal is to create inner steadiness, an inner home that does not shake every time a thought appears. How do you create that steadiness? You practice observation. You practice compassion. You practice restraint. You practice wisdom. Observation means you see what is happening without immediately reacting. Compassion means you treat yourself gently as you train. Restraint means you do not feed craving when you notice it. Wisdom means you remember that your worth is not in appearance. If you do these four things, then whether you wear makeup or not becomes a small issue, because the mind becomes the main focus. Now I want to speak to a common experience that many women privately carry. They feel that without makeup they look tired, older, and they fear losing respect. This fear is understandable because society often equates youth with value. But Buddhism offers a different value system. It says worth comes from virtue and wisdom. Worth comes from kindness and integrity. Worth comes from the mind that does not harm. Worth comes from the heart that can love. So when you face the fear of aging or looking ordinary, you have an opportunity. You can either deepen the addiction to youth, or you can deepen your freedom. Freedom does not mean neglect. It means you do not make youth your god. It means you honor the body while remembering it changes. It means you stop using impermanent form as the foundation of permanent identity. This is awakening. And this awakening can happen while you apply a small amount of makeup, or while you wash your face and go out bare. The key is the mind. Now let us move towards something even more practical. If you want a simple way to decide each day without anxiety, use this 3-question method. You do not need to memorize anything. Just feel it. First question: is my intention kind and respectful? Not to impress, not to compete, just respectful. Second question: is my mind becoming tight? If I wear makeup, do I become anxious and obsessed? If I do not wear it, do I become ashamed and fearful? Notice tightness, because tightness is attachment. Third question: does this choice support my practice today? Will it help me be more present, more compassionate, more steady? Or will it distract me into self-obsession? If the answer supports practice, proceed. If the answer distracts, adjust. This is the middle way in action. Now I want to share a longer reflection that ties the whole story together. The reason this topic matters is not because makeup is a huge moral issue. It matters because it reveals how the mind creates prisons. The mind can create a prison out of anything: a phone, a relationship, a job title, a body, a spiritual identity, a mirror, a lipstick. When you see this, you stop arguing about objects and you start freeing the mind. That is why the original question is so wise. You think you are worried about lipstick, but you are really worried about the mind, about intention, about karma, about being pulled by external forms, about being trapped in others' opinions, about being trapped in your own insecurity. So let us finish by transforming the question into a deeper vow. Instead of asking, "Can I wear makeup?" ask, "Can I keep my heart free while living in the world? Can I be neat without craving? Can I be simple without pride? Can I be beautiful without using beauty as a weapon? Can I respect others without controlling them? Can I respect myself without clinging to an image? Can I walk through the world with dignity and compassion? If you practice these questions, your life changes because your mind becomes clean. And a clean mind creates clean karma. Clean karma creates supportive conditions. Supportive conditions create a smoother path. Not perfect, but smoother. Now I want to share a personal style reflection the way I would share with a friend. I have seen people who tried to solve this issue by strict rules. No makeup ever. No jewelry ever. No effort ever. And sometimes it worked for them because their intention was sincere and their mind became peaceful. But other times the strictness became a new source of pride or fear. They became harsh toward themselves, harsh toward others, and their heart lost warmth. I have also seen people who used the language of freedom to justify indulgence. They said everything is empty, so it does not matter. But their mind was clearly restless and craving. They spent money they did not have. They chased approval. They suffered quietly. Emptiness became an excuse rather than wisdom. The healthiest path I have seen is the humble middle. A person keeps themselves neat. They do not provoke. They do not obsess. They do not judge. They keep returning to the heart. They remember that the most attractive quality in a human being is not cosmetics. It is peace. It is kindness. It is steadiness. It is a mind that does not harm. When you cultivate that, your face softens naturally. Your eyes become gentle. Your presence becomes healing. That is true adornment. That is inner light. So, here is my invitation to you. Tomorrow morning, when you stand in front of the mirror, do not rush into guilt or pride. Take one breath. Ask, what is my intention? Then choose simply. And after you choose, let it go. Do not keep checking. Do not keep judging. Do not keep fighting. Use your day to practice compassion. Use your speech to practice truth. Use your actions to build merit. Use your mind to cultivate wisdom. Because at the end of life, no one will ask how perfect your makeup was. Life will ask how kind you were, how honest you were, how much suffering you reduced, how much wisdom you cultivated, how much compassion you offered. Now it is your turn. In the comments, tell me what part of this question has been heavy for you. Is it fear of being attached? Fear of being judged? Fear of tempting others? Fear of losing confidence? Share your story, because you are not alone and your honesty can help someone else stop fighting themselves. If you want more long-form teachings like this, subscribe to the channel. Like the video if it helped you see the middle way more clearly. And if you want to support the work, you can comment, share, enjoying the membership so we can keep making these deep practical conversations that bring Buddhism into real daily life. Until next time, keep your heart clean, not by punishing yourself, but by seeing clearly and choosing wisely. There are moments when you see something and your heart simply whispers, "This one is meant for me." Bracelet carries more than beads. It carries intention, protection, and quiet strength. Something to guide your thoughts and keep your spirit steady. If you felt that gentle pull toward any of the bracelets shown, the purchase link is waiting in the description, and the full collection is displayed on our channel store. Follow your intuition. It rarely leads you wrong.